Rebecca, you can start.
Okay.
Almost. Are you there?
Oh, sorry. You're saying I can start?
Susan?
Oh, okay, great. Terrific. Good afternoon. I'm Rebecca Sorensen, Chair of the Arts and Culture Commission. Before I call the meeting to order, I need to share the following statement about our virtual meeting. Welcome to the May 27th meeting of the Arts and Culture Commission. This meeting is being held electronically to comply with the Governor's Stay Safe Minnesota order and to ensure the safety of all residents and staff. All members of the Arts and Culture Commission are participating from homes or offices. For members of the commission, please remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking and raise your hand if you need to speak. We ask that you do not use the chat function in WebEx as we meet unless you are having tech issues. We have roll call votes for each motion this evening, as well as for adjournment. I will ask Perry Vetter to call roll after each motion, and I will repeat the motion for the record before we vote, and we'll also repeat who made the motion and who seconded. We have a full agenda again tonight, so please be mindful that we have people watching, tuning in, and also watch your fellow commissioners' time. Before we begin, there are just a few things to cover for those listening in or watching online. The public has two ways to view the meeting tonight. You can watch the live stream on the city's YouTube channel or listen via phone using WebEx call-in. There is no community comment during the meeting tonight. The city is committed to hearing, receiving your input. The public can send in comments to the City Council or the Arts and Culture Commission through the Council Correspondence web form on our website. And the recording of this meeting will also be available to watch on the city's website tomorrow. Go to the Watch a Meeting link under the I Want To tab on the homepage. And thanks in advance for your patience as we work to conduct this meeting online from different software types and people all participating from homes and offices. We hope there will be no tech issues, but be assured that we will do our best to continue the meeting as best we can if there are any glitches. Thank you to everyone for tuning in and for your interest in the Arts and Culture Commission and our work in the city. With that, it is 4:33. I'd like to call the Arts and Culture meeting to order. Director Perry Vetter, would you please initiate the roll call?
Thank you, Chair Sorensen. Commissioner Chandler.
Here.
Commissioner DiLorenzo.
Here.
Commissioner Fram.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Kankamala. Commissioner Piella.
Here.
Commissioner Rubin.
Here.
Commissioner Shen.
Here.
Commissioner Stemler.
Here.
Commissioner Suko.
Here.
Commissioner Westland.
Here.
And Chair Sorensen.
Here.
Roll has been taken.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Also, everyone should have received a meeting agenda on the city website. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
I move to approve the agenda. Commissioner Westland.
Thank you, Commissioner Westland. And can we get a second?
I second Commissioner Rubin.
Thank you, Commissioner Rubin. And so the agenda has been approved. Director Vetter, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Chandler.
Aye.
Commissioner DiLorenzo.
Aye.
Commissioner Fram.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rubin.
Aye.
Commissioner Stemler.
Aye.
Commissioner Suko.
Aye.
Commissioner Westland.
Aye.
And Chair Sorensen.
Aye. Thank you so much.
The motion passes.
Terrific. Now we're on to item number 4. The April 22nd meeting minutes were posted to the City of Edina website. I hope everyone's had a chance to review the minutes. Are there any questions or changes to the April 22nd minutes?
No.
Okay, if not, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of April 22nd?
Commissioner Fram, motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Fram. And can I get a second?
Commissioner Johnson, second.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Okay, and can we also call roll?
Yes, Chair. Commissioner Chandler,
Aye.
Commissioner DiLorenzo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fram,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rubin,
Aye.
Commissioner Stemler,
Aye.
Commissioner Suko,
Aye.
Commissioner Westland,
Aye.
and Chair Sorensen.
Aye. Thank you so much.
Motion approved.
Terrific. Number 5, we have a special presentation. Many of you know our next guest. I'm sure you've had a chance to speak with her as you were onboarding with this commission and on the road to being a commissioner. We have with us the Community Engagement Coordinator, MJ Lehman. She will give a review of our commission and update on the work plan process. We all received a handout with our agenda, so if you can pull those out or have that handy as MJ presents. Thank you so much, MJ.
Thanks, Rebecca. Susan, are you able to pass me the presenter? So there's a little icon
Yep.
circle next to your name. Perfect.
Yep, yep.
Hi.
Getting there.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm MJ, who I've met all of you. So it's nice to see all of you again. I'm going to do a kind of a brief review of our member orientation. So if you were just onboarded and you went through this, then some of it you'll be really fresh for you. For others, it'll be a reminder, and then just a little bit more detail on a couple of different things. Hopefully leave a chance for some questions at the end as well. Can everyone see my screen? Head nods?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so here's the 4 things that I want to discuss with you tonight. Quick overview of the roles, a reminder, communication, guiding documents, I have an update for you, and then also spend a little bit more time on work plan development. Here's what the best graphic we have to describe how we actually have the difference of roles between council, staff, and commissions. So if you think about it, council is that decision-making body that's thinking about the overall strategy. And so those are their considerations when they're actually following through with making those decisions. As staff, we manage operations, programs, services, and we really, the best way to describe us is that technical expert, that we bring some type of professional expertise to council to provide that recommendation or that perspective. Commissions, that's all of you. You are there to advise council. So all of our commissions are advisory in nature. And the best way that we describe you or your role is that community perspective. So at the City of Edina, when we do our engagement and we're talking about how we want people to participate in the different projects and things that are going on, there's different techniques that we can use. And so the way we decide on our techniques is the level of influence that individuals or groups of individuals can have. And so this is a good graph to kind of show you those 5 different levels of public participation, from inform to empower. And then depending on where we're on the spectrum actually helps us figure out what techniques are most useful for that level of participation. So if you look at the far end of the right, when we talk about that collaborating, getting really close to empower, because even some of our boards and commissions are actually doing functions or making some decisions on different things. Boards and commissions and task forces are over there. So you yourself is a technique of public participation. So we like to remind our groups that, council picked you. And while we do other engagement efforts and we're asking the greater community or the other public, when you guys are working on your items, it's your job to bring that community perspective as a group up to city council. Here's a good snapshot. I love this slide. So this is our 4 advisory groups and the differences between them. I always like to highlight 3 differerences. Tenure, so commissions are ongoing. You have ad hoc subcommittees and working groups. And then we also have a 4th group called task forces, which also is temporary in nature. The difference is between the scope of work. So the work plan guides your work, Subcommittees, working groups are working on a specific work plan item. Task forces have a whole completely different charge. The last one is who is accountable or who the groups report to. So you're appointed by council, so you're accountable to council. Where our subcommittees, working groups are accountable to the commission because you decide to establish them as a group. And then task forces are a little bit different. It just depends on how they're actually set up. Key roles. So the differences between your chair Sorensen and also your staff liaisons. But the chair works with the liaison to help prepare that agenda and leads the meetings and facilitates discussion just like she's been doing tonight, helping with the development of the annual work plan, which we'll talk a little bit more about, encouraging that participation, making sure all the voices are heard, and then managing any areas of conflict. On the flip side, your staff is going to be supporting your chair with that agenda preparation, meeting materials, kind of the boring stuff, making sure that we're following all the rules. And then being that technical expert for you and access or the back and forth between city resources and also that communicator or liaison between you and council as well. So they're kind of just a little differences on the roles. These are the 5 ways that you have options of communicating with council. The first 4 are the pretty obvious ones that you are very familiar with. You just had your joint work session. You've seen staff reports that are written by your staff liaisons. You know about your work plan and your meeting minutes you just approved, and those are going to go to council. The one I usually stop and talk a little bit about is the advisory communication because it's used a little bit less often. And essentially, this is a template that's created in case commissions have some type of content that they want to actually share with council, but it's not on their work plan. And so the process for an advisory communication is that a commissioner or commissioners typically write it, and it's brought to the entire commission as a group and approved by the group. And then your staff liaison can support you in helping it get to the city council. I just want you to know you have that option because sometimes we wonder what we're going to do if we have time sensitive things that come up, and there is an option for communication to city council. Okay, so here's your update on your guiding documents, which maybe you have already talked about this, but we have 3. We used to have 4, but we have city code, which we just updated. And I know that you are also looking at some city code as well. We have our policies and procedures. The member handbook, I believe, was part of the packet tonight. Maybe, yep, okay. So we update that on an annual basis. And then your work plan. So that's your other guiding document that helps lead your work to know exactly what the council is asking this group to do. The 4th one that no longer exists is bylaws. Probably about 3 weeks ago, council actually rescinded all the commission bylaws. And this started in a conversation in January where we realized that there was a duplication of information. And so it made it, to simplify things, it made it easier to just have, the 3 documents. And we actually moved very little content at all in the bylaws to the other ones because it really was a repeat of the information. So let me know if you have questions about that as well. Okay, I'm going to pause real quick before we go to work plans. Any questions on just the few things I mentioned prior to this? Yes. Steve, you're on.
Can you clarify for me though the difference between duties that are enumerated in the city code for the commission and the work plan? It seems to me that the duties are broader than the work plan. And I'm trying to understand the role of a commission in fulfilling its duties if it's not on its work plan.
Right. So I think that what is in city code is going to be more of your overarching objectives as a group, like your mission of what your work all entails. And then your work plan is really going to be the specific strategies or actions that you're taking that's really going to fulfill that mission. So I know you're looking at that document right now. And so if you think about that as you're doing it to say, we're in charge of A, B, and C, your work plan is, this is how we're actually going to do A, B, and C. Does that help at all, Steve?
It does. It's just that as you look, spending time with duties, they're very expansive, and our work plan is very narrow.
They are. So you guys could think about, if you want like an example too, you could look at another commissions, like what it says in their city code versus what's on their work plan. But you're going to have more detail on that work plan where the mission work of what actually the body is in charge of will be different, because this is going to be the action items that you're going to accomplish. And those are going to change from year to year, where your city code is going to say the same.
Okay. And then just one, which is great. This is great. It's very illuminating. But the community perspective that we're supposed to be giving is our own. We're as members of the community. It's not that we're supposed to go out and canvass the community
Correct.
for their perspective. Thank you.
Correct.
For that.
Which doesn't take
I'm
away-
embarrassed to say I've been on the commission for God knows how long, and I'm finally understanding that. So thank you.
No worries. It doesn't take away the fact that you might be hanging out with neighbors and they might be talking about different things, and that's not probably going to influence you. But really what we're asking is from your community perspective, council put you in this position. So anything that were to go to council, if they really felt like a larger engagement effort was needed before they made a decision, they could decide that at any point in time as well.
But it doesn't mean we create groups or task force to get information on all of our objectives. We provide that community perspective.
Correct. That'd be like our community engagement doing community engagement.
Now, I'm really glad Steve brought that up, though. I had that same question in our chair training with the city manager, and he also said to me, we chose you all to represent the community, and kind of, again, just what MJ's saying. So I'm glad we're just emphasizing that again here, how important every one of our individual commissioners' perspective is to making these community perspectives happen for the city council. So it's up to us. I was looking at how do I use social media? How do I engage, have my own little focus groups, or was trying to go and do more. And he was sort of like, no, it is each one of you that matters to the voice of this commission. So.
Yeah, and a good example is sometimes we do projects, like even remember the comprehensive plan, we actually used your bodies as a stakeholder group because it was easy because we had access and you brought that lens for us and we're able to engage a portion of the community. So sometimes you are the engagement group in some of the larger projects as well.
And then just to clarify, when it comes to requiring a quorum, if it's a subcommittee or a working group, a quorum is not required. Is that correct?
You cannot have a quorum for a subgroup or a working group. So that's just going to be your regular members. Students do not count.
Right.
So students can join any group, as many as both of them if they want to.
Right. Okay. But you can work within those groups without concern of like making decisions, without a quorum.
Yes. So typically like a subgroup and working group are going to meet, they're going to make a proposal or recommendation that they're going to bring to the full body. But where the work actually gets done is in those smaller subgroups. And just at these meetings is where you're really making the decisions, getting updates and figuring out what are the next steps.
Okay.
MJ, this is Susan Chandler. I have another question about the documents. I'm just flipping through the materials. So the guiding documents now you say are city code, policies and procedures, and work plan. At our last meeting, we looked at the Arts and Culture Committee charge and the charges to other commissions. Where does that fit in?
That's your city code.
That's the same thing as city code. Okay. Very good.
These are awesome questions. Okay, I'm going to keep going, but if you think of something, let me know. We'll spend a little time on work plans. So essentially, the yellow square down on the bottom is where we're at as far as the annual calendar goes. This is where you're going to start your work already next month. So next month in June, you're going to talk about the 2022 work plan development, start brainstorming ideas, bringing things to the table. July, you're going to see that template, that work plan template start getting filled out. And then really in August, you're going to be approving it because after that, the staff liaison needs to actually turn it over to us to get it into the packet so that your chair can come and present the proposal to council, staff can do a final review, and then finally city council approves it. So it seems kind of crazy. We're halfway in the year, but we're already going to start talking about 2022. Here's the difference in roles. So this is what you should see when your chair is helping you out and also when the staff is helping you out. But your commission chair is going to help lead that work plan development, making sure it's not overloaded, that you're putting on you're putting on the amount that you think you can complete in a year, and making sure there's a lead to every initiative. If we don't have a lead, then it would presume that potentially nobody wants to work on the initiative. And then again, Chair Sorensen's job is going to be presented to the city council. On the flip side, staff is going to support you being that technical expertise. I keep bringing that back. And then helping with recommendations and advice to the commission. Your staff liaisons are not going to steer you wrong. Definitely listen to them because they kind of know the ins and outs of what's happening outside or behind the scenes as well. So there's good information that they'll be able to share with you. They'll make sure that your recommendations are clear so that when staff reviews it, we know exactly what you're asking for and that all those fields are filled out. So then staff will actually turn that over for that review process. Sorry, wrong way. Here's your tips. So some of these are fields on the work plan itself. So your title, be as clear as you can, just so that when we read it, we actually can kind of understand exactly what you're hoping to do. The outcome field is also on there. This was new last year, which has really helped us to understand exactly what the commission is hoping to accomplish. So if it's a report, if it's an event, if it's a recommendation on something, let us know exactly what you think you're going to have at the end. Budgets, this is an important one. Oh, especially for your group, because you most of the time do have areas where you might need funds. So the commission itself cannot approve funds. That is a staff function. And so that has to be done by the staff. However, it's important that if you think you need some budgeting, that you actually put it on the work plan, because we want council to see that in case there is like a large amount of money or it might shift or sway something. We just kind of need to anticipate that, that budget need as well. Liaison comments, I mentioned that the staff is going to be providing comments through the entire thing, in addition to also putting them on the report as well. Target completion, be realistic. Here's where it's most important is that if you are doing something that actually has like potentially a supporting department that needs to help you, they have that on their work plan. And so they're kind of anticipating whatever, maybe an event that's coming in September. So if you shift it, it actually kind of shifts their workload as well. So try to really nail down when you actually think those things are going to be done. And then partner projects. This came up probably like 4 years ago where commissions want to work a little bit more together, which is awesome. But here's how it works the best. We've learned over the past several years is that if you want to work with a commission, it's best to have a lead and then have a supporting commission. Because that makes some clear roles that the lead is the person who is, or the group who's ultimately going to work on the project and ask the supporting group for most likely for a review and comment, but they'll be in charge of it and also be in charge of making sure that it makes its way up to city council. So if you have any of those come up, there's a tip for how they work the best. And again, the staff is going to help guide you through that entire process. So you don't need to remember it all. Yeah, Steve.
So as you may know, and I think the rest of the commission knows, we actually have two budgets that we've traditionally had a 10,000 budget item for our, that's gone way back when it was our committee. And then there's also the dedicated money that comes from the bill, the city services, the garbage bill, right, Susan? That is allocated to arts and culture activities. So I was just trying to understand, and we've had a long history of this, of that money, like how we don't spend it. I just trying to understand how the process is supposed to work for the commission's benefit.
Ooh, so some of those have different rules around them. That might be a Perry question.
Okay.
Because how we can spend those is a little bit different.
Yeah, and it's actually for either way. So in the development of your work plan, there may be a budget required that would potentially come out of the department operating budget. It may be promotional materials. It may be spending dollars on various items to successfully pull off your initiative. So that would be authorized through staff's department budgets. The public art fund, which we reviewed when we talked about the I in Edina, that is those dollars that come in through annual tax levy donations and the utility billing donations. So that's the one. For that, we've always asked that the commission would make a recommendation how to spend those dollars. Staff would execute that. So the commission doesn't have the authority to spend dollars, but what we've always asked from you from that is a recommendation on how you want to spend it. And then if staff would ever to disagree, we'd have that conversation. If we agree, then we would execute that that spending of the stipends, whatever it might be. You know, the recent examples are, you know, the marketing for the virtual gallery. That was a recommendation for the commission on how to spend it. Staff then spent the dollars.
And I think what's important is that on the template, it says funds are available or funds are not available. Like there might be an item that you're asking for lots of marketing or something, and we might signify, or Perry might signify, like funds are not available because we weren't planning on this. That doesn't mean they can't do it, but then there might be another one that you want to do something related to the public art, and it fits how you can spend that money. And then again, Perry could say funds are available through the public art. So that helps them figure out if we've kind of figured out there's availability of funding as well. I know you guys have that one, but I know there's certain criteria around it.
Yeah, so you're actually at a greater advantage because of the public art fund, where like the Parks and Recreation Commission does not have any funds available or set aside for them. So part of their work plan initiatives, they wanted to do some greater communication and connecting with neighborhood groups. All the promotional materials that they need, we needed to budget for out of our operating budget. So we had to verify that what they needed, we could accomplish in our budget, where at least for the Arts and Culture Commission, if there are initiatives that require funding, and like MJ said, it meets the criteria, then it's a decision on how we want to use that fund balance.
And Perry, we just need to integrate that into our commission process, because while that is, how we understand an advantage, it's one that we have never operated under. And for the benefit of the new commissioners, if I had a penny for every meeting where we talked about if we only had money to spend, and then we found out we had money to spend. So we do need to come up with a organizing principle about how much money is there and what recommendations we can make. So, and I know it has to be part of the work plan process, but I look forward to the future of the commission, cooking with gas on this.
Yes,
so.
this is good timing.
And just a reminder, we did talk about doing a fund balance check-in when we start the work plan process, and at year end, and at any time if something were to arise that we wanted to spend dollars on. So there'd be at least 2 points where we'd verify fund balance with the commission.
And the only other historical point for the benefit of the new commissioners is that traditionally the city council has also authorized $10,000 towards what was used to be the public sculpture competition. I think it went up to $20,000 at one time. And that money was spent by the public art committee back in the day. So.
Oh,
Yes, Russ.
yeah, Russ.
Every year, the city has some areas of interest that we're not necessarily aware of as we're doing our work plan. So, the best kind of plans are a combination of top down and bottom up. And I'm wondering if there's any thoughts about doing that as we start our work plan process. So diversity and inclusion, or clean water, or whatever, affordable housing. Is that something that we could get from the city that'd help inform us as we develop our work plans?
Yes, so there is a citywide work plan that you could actually view and look at what our priorities are.
Does it change though for a given year? So as we enter 2022 planning, is there something that the city will be working on or has identified that will go into 2022?
So they kind of develop a little bit parallel to each other. But, Perry and other staff are part of those conversations. And so if there is something and light bulbs, we can share information about what is happening.
Yeah, I think we can do that well. While there's a citywide work plan, there's a commission work plan, there's also a department work plan. So I think as we all progress building these, we can kind of tie those together a little bit. But MJ, correct from, there's always a lot of legacy items that remain, like the race and equity task force, right? So items on that we can incorporate. I've mentioned to the chair, I think MJ, there's staff is very close to, I think, June 1st, bringing the Just Deeds program, joining Just Deeds to the city council on June 1st. And then there's legacy parcels that are part of the park system that also have racial covenants on them that we'd like the council to strike. And actually one of them is Yancey Park, that was formerly Garden. So striking that would be extremely important to staff. I'm sure the commissions feel the same way. About then, what does that look like from a public art standpoint? Because now we've taken these steps, and just striking the racial covenant is just a formality and a step. It's symbolic. But what else could we do from a public art and park combination perspective at Yancey to really recognize and try to move forward? So I think there's a lot of those legacy items that we can talk through on your next work plan about how city goals, department work plans, commission work plans can maybe carry those forward. So good question, Ross.
Perry, I think it might be useful to still share the 2020-2021 budget work plan with them, because it basically goes strategy, objectives, actions, similar to how I described to you guys as well. But the objectives don't change actually very often. They might get altered a little bit, but like I'm thinking of budget goal 4, the Better Together Edina, to foster inclusive and engaged community. The objectives underneath it have really kind of stayed the same from year to year, because again, they're kind of a little bit overarching, and what we do to accomplish them is underneath it.
Yeah, for those commissioners, that was in your packet last time, but we'll bring that back then for when we start talking about the next work plan.
Is there anybody else, or Rebecca, did you see anyone else?
I just had a question again as we begin in June to talk about what will come next for 2022. Could we have a report then, Perry, about what our budget looks like, so that we can have, I mean, how do we sort of take the temperature to, aside from what we just did with City Council, in terms of, say we do find a citywide public art venture we want to engage in, and it costs X amount of dollars, we don't really know, I mean, how are we going to sort of know, can we use half our budget on this effort, or just in terms of how big we can start thinking about efforts now that we're so focused on public art?
Well, I think, reviewing the fund balance and the anticipated expenses that we've already earmarked is one start. I think communicating that desire through the work plan is really important. I would say there's kind of, during COVID, we weren't able to do this, right? But there's, you can either set your budget and then decide what you want to accomplish, or you can decide what you want to accomplish and then try to set your budget. So I think having that discussion through the work plan and bringing that up through staff and through the council would allow you to have that dialogue. This is actually a really good year because we're setting our 22-23 budget. So on the operating side for staff side, but so bringing that through the work plan, I think kind of the ideal point to say, our draft work plan, we want to think big in these areas, and that could require something. At least you can have that dialogue then through that as part of the presentation.
Okay. And then if we have to go back and adjust, then we still have some time to do that before the December meeting. Okay.
Yeah, you'll present in October, and then staff will evaluate, and then the council reviews again, I think in December. So, but I think by then, we'll have a couple of meetings where we can talk through what does 22 look like. Maybe even with an eye towards, we've talked about, maybe an expanded parking lot of items to look at as well.
So there is mid-year modifications that sometimes do happen with work plans. So this is a good thought to keep in the back of your mind too, when you're trying to make sure that your work plan is not overloaded, or if you're like, we're not exactly sure what we're going to do, and maybe you want to wait to put it on there type of thing. It really has to do with resources and workload and where you are progressively on your current work plan. ETC just did a mid-year modification, but they had advanced so quickly through their work plan that they really did have the capacity to actually take on another initiative. But just so you understand, there are 3 ways that a mid-year modification can happen. Joint work session sometimes is a good time to float an idea to ask for an adjustment. Which I know you've already had yours. Then the other option is a city council meeting, where it actually is taken to a city council meeting, which of course is going to include a staff recommendation to like advise on where are they at, like does this fit into the workflow and the work plan that items they still have remaining, and then council can direct at any time. They may, and this happened to HRC around community conversations. They decided we want you to do this. Their work plan was modified by that direction. So those are kind of the ways that it might adjust mid-year as well. But Rebecca, and I wasn't sure if I missed it, but I just want to make sure. So when you guys hand off your work plan or in September, we won't make any adjustments to that work plan until after they're approved. And if it seems like a mid-year modification should take place. So I wasn't sure if I missed the timeline that the two of you were talking about.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm just thinking so that especially our commissioners working on a new effort for 2022 can start. I mean, we operate so differently than the other commissions in terms of, and we heard from City Council that they're interested in sort of a citywide effort that might engage the community, like our virtual gallery, but something in person for the next year. And it's sort of how big can we dream, knowing, how much funds we have. We're sort of, for public art, it really helps to have a dollar amount in mind. So then we can start thinking truly what is possible.
Yep.
So that's where I just want to free us up so we can think creatively over the summer about what we want to do next.
Okay, so the conversation doesn't need to end. You still have staff. You can always inquire with them if there's any questions. They know where to find me as well, and as do you. But I'm gonna let you guys go so you can finish out the rest of your meeting. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, MJ. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, MJ.
Terrific. That was really helpful. A lot to digest there, but we'll keep moving because I know we've got a lot more to cover here. Next, we're going to 6A on our agenda. Actually, Perry Vetter is going to present this, which is, again, talking more about the duty document and editing our duties and, clarity around that city code. I guess it's called the city code document, right? So Perry, thanks for leading us in that discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Sorensen, and great conversation, commissioners, and it actually ties into this next step on your agenda. So this is kind of the part two. Last meeting, we discussed quite comprehensively the role of commissions. We provided you with information on what other commissions' duties were, talked through a lot, the duties versus what a work plan is, all those things that you kind of heard again this evening. So apt timing. We asked you, to provide any feedback to us. So what you see in the packet this evening on kind of the attachment, the strikeout underline addition, was what we had received in addition to going back and hearing your discussion at the last meeting. There seemed to be a need to follow up again this evening. We talked last time about not wordsmithing. We talked about, is tonight the appropriate time to wordsmith? If people had a chance to, again, kind of digest that conversation and then look at those. So we really abbreviated your agenda packet for this item tonight. Last time it was quite a lot of attachments. This evening we just put in the abbreviated portion of the city code. You may hear it also as like in the city ordinance. So this is all part of city code, city ordinance. This is how this is reflected, for your duties and the other commissions and city code. So with that, we just put together the attachment. It's got a few strikeout underlying changes in it, reflecting a little bit of your conversation there. And we wanted to bring this back to give you the opportunity, as again said, a little bit of time to digest it and what your thoughts are headed forward. So Chair, I don't know if you want to have a discussion around that, if commissioners had thoughts as they wanted to express them. I can try to keep notes as well.
Sure. Would members of the commission like to talk about the edits that were suggested or anything that they don't see reflected in the changes that were made? Would anyone like to jump in or have anything they want to add?
No, it's good.
This is Commissioner Chandler. I'll just say that I appreciate the clarity on the second page where there were a couple of changes made that made sense to me. Specifically, continue to advance and implement a public arts program versus a public visual arts program. And then the strikeout of the public art committee, which we did talk about, and it's, I think, good to reflect that here. So I just want to endorse those changes.
I guess I should, thank you, Commissioner Chan, for pointing that out. I should reflect that the strikeout of the committee working group for public art is how you have been operating. That's my understanding. We've just not actually made that change in city code to reflect that.
Yes, Steve.
I guess I apologize. I was unable to attend the last meeting, but I watched it on video. Thank you, Susan. But it does seem to me still, though, that the duties are quite expansive. And I'm still trying to understand how that's supposed to work in a work plan the last couple of years that have been very restrictive. So, you know, I don't have a quick fix on that, Perry, but it seems like you would read this and you think you have a lot of things to do, and you read the work plan and you see you have very few things to do.
I think the only way I can do is, we kind of talked about a little bit last time, I don't know if it was reflected in the minutes or if I was clear enough, is we want to make sure that your commission duties in the city code are timeless. That as you're thinking about joining the commission, you've been on the commission, you're newly appointed to the commission, this is kind of the scope and breadth of your duties. Then the work plan is then specific to a year. And in this year, this is our charge that we want to accomplish. And while every commission's duties are different, every commission's work plan is different as well. So that's kind of the best way I can say it, is that one should be timeless. We should not change it often. It's healthy to review and make sure it's up to date, and then always continually evolve the annual work plan.
And the last piece I would just add is that the comprehensive plan was also very aspirational. So if you were looking for a timeless document that reflected a great deal of work, that certainly, in my opinion, was more timeless. But anyway, like I said, I apologize for missing the last meeting.
If I could just, sorry.
Thank you.
It's like having a job description and having a list of annual objectives. The annual objectives are really the details and specific outcomes. The job description is an outline, or almost creates borders or boundaries of what you can or can't do. And they're complementary. They're not meant to be the same. And I think that this is what we have here to work with. But I do tend to agree that for whatever reason, our objectives have gotten narrower and narrower over time, our work plan objectives. And that's just something we need to be cognizant of, and perhaps push the envelope a little bit as we think about next year.
And Chair, I just wanted to add one thing. I don't know if I mentioned it last time or not. We did include the comprehensive guide plan chapter last time, not this time around. That is a 10-year document. So the Metropolitan Council requires that of cities to update a comprehensive guide plan every 10 years. It takes several years to get to that update and then for approvals. And this was the first year that the Edina comprehensive guide plan had an arts and culture chapter. So, so just to kind of make sure everyone was on the same knowledge base for that as well. It was a very important first step.
Okay, thank you. So I know we had talked about narrowing those duties down, but I think we're all saying maybe we just keep it open-ended and, you know, even try to increase the work plan to reflect some of those objectives that still float on the duties and city code document. But, you know, does anyone have strong feelings about reducing the size of the document duties? That was one of the things we did. I also I really appreciate the edits. I think it just is much clearer now. I think we wanted to cut it down even more, but I think I'm okay with the way it looks right now. Does anyone else feel strongly about sort of doing further edits to the duties, or should we go with what we've got right now? Or maybe no one really. I think right now I think it works
I'm fine.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Chair, maybe we can work together on an advisory communication as MJ put out. We can prepare that for the commission review and send this
Okay.
back to the city council.
Sounds great. All right,
So
we'll
you
work
have
on.
one more official review of this.
Okay.
So hopefully it's just a motion.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so we'll do that before the June meeting. Okay. Terrific. So thank you, Perry. I think we're all set with 6A, and we'll move on to 6B and the work plan discussion. I know this is really fresh for a lot of us as we presented our work plan to council last Tuesday. I want to thank so many of our commissioners that were on that call. It was terrific, I think, for the council to see the engagement with our commission. I know that the feedback was very positive on the presentation. So I think since we are talking about our work plan, why don't we just go through our different 1 through 4 and give some quick updates, anything that's kind of very pertinent to what you're working on right now. We can start with Initiative 1 with Lindsay, and if Shreya's on the call, and I know we have Tiffany and Lauren as well. But Lindsay, maybe keep us up to date on the marketing, and then we've got some new things happening.
We're continuing to get a steady flow of submissions, which is great. And I think the word is getting out, and we're seeing a lot more click-throughs and visits to the website, which is really fun too. And the city is working on the marketing plan that I know we've gone over in the past few meetings with, started with social media sponsorship, and then going to like things like the Currents and Star Tribune and things like that to continue to get the word out and kind of getting the most bang for our buck as we go through the year with the budget that we have.
Okay, and is Shreya with us tonight? I don't
I don't
think she is.
see her on here, no.
She is not, she did not join us.
Lauren and Tiffany, I know you're on the call too. We have Lauren and Tiffany helping with 50th in France concert series that will present opportunities during the intermission of headlining performances for students to perform. And I think we need to have a release made, but potentially student performances being videotaped and submitted to the virtual gallery if they fall into the criteria. So Tiffany and Lauren, I know you've worked with the curator for that series, Katie Vernon. That series launches next Friday. It's a summer concert series every Friday from 4 to 7 p.m. I believe, Tiffany, you're going to be one of the performers in the concert series. And I don't know if there's anything you want to share at this point, or another thing in marketing. I know Lindsay and Perry, I think we may have a doc or a little promo card potentially happening with marketing. Is that sort of in the works to be handed out at the concerts, or is there any update on that?
I have talked to city staff about it, but I don't have a detailed update right now.
Okay.
Unless Perry does, I don't.
I just told Kirsten she didn't need to check with me. It was fine. So whenever she got the question of what to do, it was fine to go ahead with. So.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll just stay in front of her since this thing is fast approaching next Friday. Tiffany,
I didn't want to be the roadblock, so I said when Lindsay calls, it's okay. So.
Okay, great. And Lindsay put together a great blurb on the effort for a press release that will now go out to media on the commission's involvement. I'll make sure I send that to you, Perry, so that you can share that with all the commissioners. They can see the press release about the series, which mentions the virtual gallery and the way we're going to promote the virtual gallery within this series as just another way to engage with the public. So Tiffany, I don't know, did you have anything else you want to share at this point, or?
I don't have anything extra right now.
Okay. But which performance are you in again?
I'm doing July 30th.
July 30th. Okay. So put that on your calendars. I think that's going to be really exciting. And I know we're going to talk a little bit later too, but there was another opportunity to promote the virtual gallery I think an invitation it has been approved, Susan Tarnowski, for the Fall into the Arts Festival. If Mosaic would be interested in a table at that event to promote the virtual gallery and come up with activities for members of the public that are at that festival to engage with the virtual gallery as, again, another way to be in front of the community and look for more submissions. We can talk about this later too. One thing council mentioned, and I think Shreya responded to a little bit on the council meeting, the mayor in particular was looking at, now that we're all starting to be in person again as we're vaccinated and together, looking at how do we, aside from the performances, perhaps involvement in the Fall into the Arts Festival, and I know Lindsay and Mosaic are also working on an art effort with the Edina Public Schools for the fall. Other ways that this artwork that lives on the virtual gallery could be brought to life. Is there a way to do a mural on a building or have chalk art or some way to take it off of the screen and bring it into the community in an in-person way? So again, that's just some feedback that came out of the city council meeting, and maybe more thoughts will happen around that from Initiative 1.
Question on that, Rebecca. I love the idea. I think that was always part of the plan, is to kind of bring this to life once we could, and maybe do, if it's an art walk and we have the actual pieces that are featured, you know, in a gallery or in businesses around the city. Now, would that technically be part of Initiative 1 going into 2022, or is that a separate item on the work plan? How does that work?
That's it may be that it has to carry over to 2022, because I know that was in the original proposal that was accepted by council, but you're right, it technically is not listed in our work plan right now. So Perry, I don't know if you have thoughts about that, but it definitely was something council seemed very interested in. And whether or not we have time to complete that by December, maybe there's something we can do to incorporate that idea for the Fall into the Arts Festival. Otherwise, it might be an interesting thing to kind of roll over into 2022 and keep that effort alive, because there is so much rich content on that virtual gallery, and it's really interesting to sort of look at and explore it as we continue to have conversations about building a more inclusive Edina and race and equity. I mean, there's such rich content on that site that thinking of ways to, like, going back to your proposal that was pretty much, it had all these ideas of what we could do if we were in person again. We go back to that and then activate that maybe for 2022, I think is a great idea. I just don't know. I mean, I don't know. It seems like there's so much going on right now, and things are just, as you said, sort of taking off with the virtual gallery, with all the click-throughs and submissions just each week growing and growing. And then these efforts this summer. It seems like we just have a lot going on right now for Initiative 1. And I would think, you know, maybe there's something, maybe one of the, this engagement you're talking about with Mosaic and the Edina Public School art teachers, maybe there's some kind of, you know, a chalk art or some kind of effort that brings Initiative 1 more to life with student art. Because in a way, we are going to do this in person with Initiative 1. We are doing sort of the music part will be in person with the concert series. You know, that part is going to start to play out a little bit, but in terms of just what lives on the virtual gallery and then maybe what's to come with the student art, maybe there's an opportunity for something for the fall. I don't know. Do other commissioners have thoughts about that, or what do you think is doable, Lindsay, with your work plan? I mean, I know you're losing a couple of commissioners. You'll gain a new one. You've got the entire group of Mosaic. Do you think that they're up for doing, probably nothing now because they're all, obviously it's summer, but you know, in the fall, what do you think about coming up with maybe something that's more
yeah, I just saw Susan and Perry's hands go up, so just in case they wanted to chime in first.
I was just going to say, you surely could do a teaser or even something as part of Fall into the Arts Festival. So when we get to that part of the conversation, just kind of remember what we're saying here.
Okay, great. And Perry, did you say you had something?
Well, Chair, I was just going to recommend, I think you definitely would want to make this part of your 22 work plan. And maybe as part of this process, you want to take a portion of this year to decide how you want to bring the virtual gallery to life. You're going to have to talk about, is this physical medium? Is this portable? Are you going to ask the artists that submitted to come in and do the work themselves? Are you going to try to recreate? So I think there's part of this that you may want to have some conversations around. What does bringing virtual to the physical environment actually look like, and what's it going to take? And then maybe that's the goal for 22, is to bring it to life and bring it to the community.
Yeah, I agree with that, Perry. And is June our June meeting our time to brainstorm these ideas? And so we put that on the agenda as an item, I think. And if that falls under initiative 1 that carries to 2022, or it falls under a different initiative, it doesn't really matter. But I think there's a ton of potential and a ton of different ways this could go. And I think that, technically the virtual gallery, I think, is only through December of this year. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't be extended, but that could also be a great transition time to go from virtual to physical at that mark too. So, but we can save, I think, if everyone, I'm sure there's lots of brilliant ideas in this group of how to take it live in person. And if we want to, put that on the agenda for next month, I think that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Just to
That would
clarify,
be
Commission.
Yeah.
June and July and August, you'll start building your work plan. In August, we would need a motion on where you think you want to be at that time to bring that forward. So June, July, and August, you'll have that opportunity to really discuss what that is, and we'll prep your packets accordingly.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lindsay. Anything else? We all set, I think, with initiative 1 then for now.
Yes, everyone just wants to keep looking at the virtual gallery and kind of come up with ideas of what they see there and what they think might be fun to bring to real life. And also if there's certain mediums or different things that we want to be getting more of, and how to kind of promote and engage with that too.
Okay.
And I just have a question about the current state of the website. It says that, that one of the ways that the community can engage with the art is through comments on the posts, but there's the individual art posts do not have a comments section. There's a comment section on the main page, which nobody has commented on. So I'm curious if there have been other ways that the public has been able to comment on the submissions, or if we want to look into activating that. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I agree with you, Brian, because I thought it was going to be under each piece of work, and I haven't seen that either. And so that's a tech thing that we need to work with the city with. But that would be that would be the objective.
We should have kept her on the call. I'll have to follow up with MJ. She's the expert on Better Together.
And that is one reason we use the Better Together platform, for that reason. So we need to figure out how to make that easier, accessible, and just making sure it's live and happening.
Okay, thank you. Initiative 2, we'll go right to initiative 2 with Commissioners Fram and Kemmler. You should be receiving marketing updates that will help to inform us as we begin our conversations in June about what's going to happen for 2022. Can you talk to us a little bit about any updates that you might have, or anything that's going on right now as you begin to prepare us for discussions about what comes next? So either one of you, if you could.
I'll go ahead. So Brian and I had a good discussion. It was great to connect with the council this last week and get an idea for what they're thinking, and you touch base on that, Chair Sorensen, and the community art project idea and what they would like to see happen in the community. So it's kind of helping us to brainstorm. I did reach out to Susan about the possibility of actually having a working document that Brian and I can work on and develop and utilize some of those brainstorming projects that you as a group had done this past December, I believe, to kind of give us a little bit more of a direction. And of course, with everything happening from the virtual gallery, I know Lindsay touched base on that. I think for us and the evaluation piece, the big part is the promotion of that and how can we make that bridge from promoting the gallery outside of just even its virtual platform out to the community in other ways. Like Brian and I came up, what could we do an idea of promoting the gallery even electronically at City Hall? If there's electronic signage as people are coming in and now that City Hall is open to the public. So just trying to find ways to really push additional promotion within the community on the gallery piece. And Brian, can you add any more to that and what we discussed? I know we're beginning the brainstorming process, but there's a lot to think about, I guess, in the piece and what we want to do looking at 2022.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing I would add is that, I mean, the virtual gallery is an interesting, it's an interesting experiment because, the pandemic, it was partly driven by the pandemic of providing people an opportunity to a virtual world. And now that we're moving back into the physical world, it's like how to take the virtual to the physical. Whereas I think, probably moving forward, we definitely want to think about maybe initiatives that start off physical, but then also have a virtual component, so that moving forward, there will be an equal kind of consideration for both in terms of an experiential and an engagement way. So I think that's kind of how I'm approaching this. And I think that the discussions about how to take the virtual gallery into the physical world will help to kind of, clarify ways that future initiatives can then work in both worlds.
That's terrific. And it's important for all of us to realize summer is around the corner and we have to do sort of our really best thinking in the next couple months as Brian and Alyssa guide us in a discussion around what we want to do next. So keep your eyes open, start really reading and looking around and thinking about what some of our neighboring communities are doing, communities across the country are doing. I'm so glad that Alyssa and Brian have now the ideas that were captured last fall. Lindsay and many others here had suggested different ideas, and so those will be put back on the table. And again, from our city council call, we know that they're looking for high impact, and it's interesting, this idea of being together again and what brings us together. So, I think that we were given free rein in terms of, I don't really hear that I heard if anyone could correct me, but I didn't hear the council say, I think it was interesting, like James Pierce and the mayor sort of had examples of, including James Pierce with like an actual quilt of like putting people together, weaving people together with art. So that's why, it's also going to be helpful to know in terms of anything we want to do that might be more explosive, like digital art or something like that, what kind of budget we might have to play with so that we can look at doing something and not have to be so tentative about what big ideas we might want to explore. So in any event, I know we'll keep talking about that. And thank you both so much for leading us in that next phase of discussion. And it's great learning from our first initiative and how we might continue that effort into 2022 and discussing that. So now we're on to initiative 3 with Ruben, Vice Chair Ruben, and Susan Johnson and myself. Russ, I know we again had a great time talking with council about this, but anything, Russ has actually been taking a stab at putting a report together for council, and Susan and I are continuing to have conversations with other local arts and culture and community, local communities that are also working on incorporating public art into their development. So Russ, anything you want to update us on?
No, I think we need to get together and make sure we know what each of us are learning. I mean, to hearing that, I mean, clearly what we're hearing is that there are some best practices out there which we're not following as of yet. And the question really becomes, do we want to provide the council all those various options? And here's what city A is doing, city B, city C, or do we want to come in and be a little bit more prescriptive and say, you know, if we ruled the world, here's the direction we would go for the city of Edina. But clearly there are cities close by without the cachet of Edina that are doing more than we are doing. So that's a challenge to us. And hopefully we can put something together that council will respond to, and we can really kind of lift our game up a little bit higher.
This is another one that I think might need to live on in 2022 as well.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
This was of great interest to the council on our last call. Yeah. And just a little anecdote that, for example, even the concert series with Nolan Main, when I was at an event recently and someone said, you know, talking about public art and development, there's so much commercial development happening. Could be very controversial in Edina. So much is happening, and you know, neighborhoods are really weighing in on different projects. And someone said, for example, with Nolan Main's, like, what have they really done for the community? And so then I said, well, actually, there is going to be all this summer programming and this concert series, and all of a sudden they sort of looked at that building a little differently and their, you know, sort of engagement with the community. And I think that, you know, for us to hone in on a point of view for Edina on how we, it doesn't have to mean bringing more sculpture to our new commercial development. It could mean that we're learning from other cities that it could mean funds come to, you know, it's hard because we don't have a nonprofit entity, but how do we perhaps have funds that would be allotted to an effort like a concert series or, you know, a community-wide public art initiative that's way beyond what our budget is. You know, that there are so many different ways that we could engage with, ask more from our developers as they're coming in, green space for more performances. There are just endless opportunities, and we're seeing other cities, as you say, Russ, doing that. And Edina sort of had a backseat approach to it. And it's like, maybe occasionally it will happen, but it's definitely not a point of view or even a policy at all at this point.
Correct. When Bill Neuendorf, who is really the key person in the city for economic development, says we don't have a standard approach to interacting with our developers as to what they should be including in their development plans, or a system of checking on compliance, that says we're really not doing a good enough job, especially when you talk to other cities. When we spoke to St. Louis Park and the head of planning there, she knew everything. She knew what was going on. She knew what was under discussion, and she could identify all those parts that were part of public art, and in the broadest sense of public art as well.
Yep, exactly. So we'll keep talking, but how to incentivize new development with public art in their proposals and that kind of thing. So and thanks to you for taking a stab at a recommendation letter to the city. And I know Commissioner Johnson's working hard and making connections in Bloomington and Minneapolis. So we'll have another follow-up meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, terrific. I'll reach out about that. Next, we're going to go on to Initiative 4. I know Perry will give an update on that there's a meeting planned for June 3rd at 4 o'clock with the art consultant to the city, Sarah Peterson, that Steve Sukow, Susan Chandler, Laura Westland, and Brian Stemler will all attend, and will be reporting back to us about that meeting in June. But maybe, Perry, if you could share any updates that we should know beyond that right now about Initiative 4.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to make sure the 4 commissioners did receive their invitation, especially Commissioner Sukow, because my initial email to you was responded by someone who said, I think the person you're trying to reach is in the USA. So I had a different letter in between your
I haven't been in the USA since 2018, Perry. So
so you didn't ask me to wire you any money or anything like that weird, but I just wanted to make sure that the 4 of you have on your calendar, June 3rd, 4 p.m. We'll be meeting with Sarah Peterson and Nancy Blankford. So Sarah Peterson Consulting, she, as a reminder, led the council through their retreat. Great background in art. Nancy Blankford is from HGA Architects. She's going to help us on the physical space needs side. She was heavily involved in the Grandview discussion, so she also has a great background on that. So again, as a reminder, our goal is not to do a study. We're doing a plan, right? So looking forward to June 3rd.
Great. Any other comments from Initiative 4? Oh, I know, Laura Westland. We have something kind of cool that Laura proposed, just an embellishment to the Arts and Culture Commission and awareness around the commission. Laura, why don't you share your idea and we can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. This is a little bit maybe jumping the gun on some of the brainstorming, but I knew that Edina has been asking for submissions and more ideas. And so I'm just wondering if we might highlight a piece of public art in Edina, just really, really briefly. I'm thinking, you know, Maureen Smith has a really brief book recommendation in every issue, and we would have something like that that highlights a piece of public art, maybe talks a little bit about the artist or the history of the piece. But then at the end of that, it's also an opportunity to remind people that they can contribute, that there's the opportunity to contribute through the utility bill, through a direct donation to the Edina Community Foundation, reminding people of the Edina Liquor Connection with funds that can be directed to public art. So just kind of throwing that out as an initial idea about how to inform people a little more about public art in Edina.
Great. And I don't know, Perry, is that something where, can that just be another way to, again, engage and raise awareness around the public art in Edina? Does there have to be, do we have to vote about this, or could Laura just pitch a column to Edina Magazine if it happens? Great, reflects well on all of us, or is there a process that we need to follow for that?
Yeah, most likely, maybe Laura, you and I can just connect and just get a little more of the details about what we should cover or shouldn't cover and go from there.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, no, and of course I'd want you to review any language about things like that to make, but it would be great. We have some really significant pieces of art here, and I'm not sure that everyone knows that, even though they pass them every day. So it'd be fun to give people more information.
Great.
Yeah,
thank you.
The Edina Community Foundation is doing something on that same vein in the Sun Current every month as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Perry, I'll follow up with you on that.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Thanks, Laura. Okay, great. So with that, I think we are caught up on our work plan for now. Unless anyone else has anything else they want to bring to the discussion, we'll move on to our next agenda item for chair and member comments. I would just like to again thank everybody that participated in the City Council discussion last week. Again, it just was wonderful to see so many faces there, to have updates from various members of our commission. The council really appreciated it. I think they gave us some feedback in terms of, again, what we've talked about, looking for more public art, bigger sort of ideas in terms of coming up with ways to connect and build community through public art. I wanted to bring up one thing that had come up in an email or two to me as your chair about the American Rescue Plan federal funding of $4.9 million. There were a couple of comments on the Better Together site, and that came to me directly asking if the Art Center considered, if the Art Center qualified, or would the Art Center consider applying for some of that federal money. And I brought this up with Perry, and he directed me to the Better Together site and actually there's pretty strict criteria about that funding. So it's recapturing lost revenue due to the pandemic. There's a sort of a list of kind of, going to support public health, essential workers, water, sewer, broadband infrastructure, and that facilities can't apply directly. Parks and Rec might be able to qualify, but essentially the Art Center does not qualify. So, again, I wanted to bring that up because you may be asked that too in the community, and there was the answer. There is actually another online meeting. I don't know if you were aware that there were 2 public meetings where the city manager is asking for community input on how to spend this money, even though there is a pretty strict criteria around it. The next one is an online meeting on June 2nd at 7 o'clock. And it's via Better Together, so you can register on there if you want to listen in on the discussion and see what comes up. The Better Together site as well also shows there are about almost 50 ideas that people are floating around about how they'd like to see the money spent. Some are saying send it back. Some are giving pretty specific, requests. And you'll see in there, there are maybe 1 or 2 about the Art Center. So just kind of out there in the public, and I wanted everyone to be aware of that in case you come across discussion around that too. Let's see. Otherwise, I'm wondering, I want to make sure we end at 6, but does anyone else have anything they want to bring up at this time regarding that or anything else related to the commission? Okay.
This is not related to the commission, but rather to a commissioner. And I would just like to mention for everybody's awareness that Steve Suko's house won a wonderful award, the Heritage Preservation Award. Is that right, Steve?
That is correct, Susan. The Edina, it's a historical preservation board, gives out an annual award. And I would welcome to host the commission meeting at our outdoor courtyard, which is why we got the award, Chair Sorensen, if you'd like to do that at some point during the summer. It can be socially and safely distanced. So I think that probably is a violation of the governor's order, though. But anyway,
wonderful
maybe we could do it. Maybe we could do a drink there instead. But no, it was for those of you who don't know, it was really nice because that commission basically goes out and finds people and then helps them apply and then picks us. So we were doing this great renovation or preservation and they reached out and made us feel good about what we were doing. So that was very nice. Thank you, Commissioner Chandler.
That's awesome. Congratulations. And I love the idea of doing a meeting. Can we all maybe a field trip over to Steve's? Yeah. That would be terrific.
So for those of you, it's a mid-century house and it's built around a central courtyard, which is very typical of a California mid-century house, but not necessarily an Edina mid-century house. And that's what we renovated. And if you want, it will be on the Edina Comcast channel on June 1st, and it will be on the city's social media sites as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I also just want to plug again the virtual gallery and continue to share the virtual gallery with friends and people you meet that, tell them about it, see if it's something that they're interested in or they know people that would be interested in submitting. It's terrific to see it take off and grow. And also enjoy the 50th in France concert series this summer. Every Friday evening, go downtown 4 to 7. This is a way to bring people back to downtown, bring people together again outside safely with live music, free to the public, a very diverse group of performers. And each performance, each headliner will have an intermission featuring a student. So we have high school students from Edina, from North Minneapolis, spoken word, music, choral music. It's a great opportunity to see some of our younger performers, emerging artists in the community and beyond. So I hope people will consider doing that, make dinner reservations downtown, and enjoy live music again. So I'm really excited for that too. So before we adjourn our meeting, I also want to just thank our commissioners and also congratulate our class of 2021 members. I'm sorry, I don't know, Lauren, I think you're on here. I'm sorry, my screen isn't showing you, but Lauren and Shreya and Tiffany, we hopefully have one more year with you. But for our graduating seniors, they're both on to great places. Shrey is going to Vanderbilt, Lauren's going to Gustavus. They both worked super hard this year, not only with all the challenges of the pandemic, but led our biggest initiative and did that with a lot of impact and grace, figured things out in a really challenging year. And I think this might be the first student-led initiative we've had on this commission. So it's something to be celebrated. It's civic engagement at its best. And you'll take those experiences with you as you go on into the world, and the world will be a better place because of it. So thank you so much for your engagement with our community, and congratulations and good luck with your graduations and plans for the fall. So thank you all. And with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn the May 27th meeting at 5. Oh,
Chair,
sorry.
Chair,
sorry.
just have a couple of quick staff comments. Yes. If chair and member comments are done, if anyone had anything else.
Yes, sorry, I'm done.
We'll be brief. Just wanted to thank you again for pointing out about the Federal American Rescue Plan Act. That is very important to the city manager and the council to get a lot of community perspective on that. So if you do want to check out the Better Together site, it also kind of, as the chair mentioned, does have some pretty specific criteria. However, as staff, we are looking at several of those items of submitting ideas for. One for us huge is a loss of revenue over the last year. When you think of our, not only of our enterprise operations, but also of our programming operations, we're looking at that. There's one for negative impacts of the pandemic on the business community. We also have a lot of internal business partners that we work with at a lot of our facilities, as well as investments in, water, sewer, and broadband for us as well. What we found in a lot of our areas is just the technology aspect of trying to create and expand programming was limited by broadband and things like that. So we will be applying, but if it was a magic wand, we would be unable to spend $4.9 million on the Arts Center. However, we are looking at submitting for lost revenue throughout the pandemic, which was a very tough year on our enterprise and our programmatic operations. So that's one. The second, I wanted to again thank Susan Tarnowski and apologize to Susan Tarnowski. The news of her retirement accelerated the actual plans for retirement. So I wanted to apologize for that. And we are very hopeful that Susan will be actually not fully retiring, but phasing her retirement to where she's cutting back on hours, not just above 40, but down to a few below that, to where she would help us with some initiatives like Fall into the Arts Festival and the Author Studio and things like that. So we wanted to value her skills over this time frame. And at the same time, we would also begin recruitment as well, as you know, that takes some time as well. So again, wanted to thank her officially for that. Ensure she knows that we did not intend for that news to accelerate her ability to share that news, but my apologies on that. So those two things, hopefully her phasing, and then we'll begin recruitment as well.
And we'll continue to see, this isn't our last meeting with Susan. Susan will continue to join us on meetings this summer. Is that correct?
It depends how she negotiates, whether or not, but we will see Susan again. So,
okay.
Yep. Hopefully we're actually moving in person very, very quickly.
Along those lines, I just had a question too. If, for example, in July, maybe perhaps one of us might be on vacation, will we still be, if we are suddenly moved into in-person again, will we still have the option to do a WebEx or, I'm just thinking of some of these busy summer months like July. Is that possible?
I think we found the virtual environment somewhat problematic and somewhat very beneficial, right? The ability to just do it from your home quick has been nice, especially when we did it over the winter. Right now, the city's looking at how to try to do a hybrid approach, especially for those that may not feel comfortable coming back in person, or maybe a medical condition doesn't allow them to be vaccinated yet. They've got to work through something yet with their medical provider, so that the city is actually looking at how to create kind of a hybrid environment where we can do in person, but still allow the virtual option.
Okay, that's great. And then Susan, I forgot, I'm so sorry that I almost completely passed over these updates, but Susan, would you like to share anything going on with Fall into the Arts and your the other initiatives that you're involved with?
Yeah, just very quickly. I think we could use your help. We, meaning the festival committee, could use your help perhaps before you meet again, thinking about how you might use a booth to promote the virtual gallery, among other things, at the Fall into the Arts Festival. So maybe that's something for you to kind of put on a talking point for an agenda. We have 157 artists that have applied as of today, and that's fabulous in this environment, so we're excited. The other thing that I think is kind of exciting is that we had tried to do an in-person author studio, or what we're beginning to call Speaking of Authors. And this was going to be a partnered collaborative event with Edina Reads and the Hennepin County Libraries. And Hennepin County Libraries have really decided they are not going to do in-person events yet, just full stop. So we have identified a very interesting author. Perhaps you know the name Joan Treppa. Joan has written about people that have been incarcerated for crimes they did not commit, and efforts to prove innocence of those individuals. And I think it will make a very interesting interview. So that will be coming up as well. We had our first ever macrame class. Woohoo! Oh, tons of macrame. That's it. Thanks.
Right, and you still have some openings for art classes, for youth art classes. And I think it's important, I don't know that everyone realizes that those youth art classes, some of them are actually still happening in the art center.
Yeah, we should say, Tracy and Perry and I talked a lot, and we will offer the camps on one level in the art center. It helps a lot with supervision rather than being in multiple buildings, storage, and kind of carrying things back and forth. So we will do that. And we did introduce a new camp. So if you've got anybody interested in cartooning, we have a brand new camp for that this summer. And if it goes well, we've also got a tentative schedule for an anime class next spring, if we find that there's interest. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you. It's exciting. It's great to see classes happening again.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I guess there's nothing further to talk about right now. I guess we'll close this meeting. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the May 27th meeting at 5:57. Can I get a motion?
Move we adjourn.
Thank you. And can I get a thing? Okay, who was the second?
Sorry, Lindsay.
Oh, Lindsay. Okay, great. Thanks, Lindsay. Perry, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Commissioner Chandler,
Aye.
Commissioner DiLorenzo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fram,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rubin,
Aye.
Commissioner Stemler,
Aye.
Commissioner Suko,
Aye.
Commissioner Westland,
Aye.
and Chair Sorensen.
Aye.
Your motion carries and you are adjourned.
Terrific. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing the ideas in
Bye.
June. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. All right, I'll get our thing turned off.
Get the YouTube off. Okay. Are you at the center tomorrow? I need to see those totems yet.
Yes, I will be for some time tomorrow. I'm not sure which.
Okay. All right. I'll wander around. I got to visit this electrical panel thing too. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, Susan.
All right, thank you.